This is a review of the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube console versions of this game. Separate videos for the PC and GBA versions will follow and are linked in the information card and description. What you just saw was the trailer for this game as it was seen advertised in other games at the time, specifically a rip from the GameCube disc of Battle for Bikini Bottom. I have an ever so strange connection to this trailer. Honestly, it was intensely eye-catching to me as a child. I would never actually get to own the game as such a young child, but this trailer is something I uploaded to my YouTube channel right here 6 years ago now, and it still is, in massive numbers, the most watched video this channel has ever seen at 31,000. I will never top this. I am pretending to be okay with this. My upload of this video is even linked to one of the animator's websites as a portfolio. This website no longer exists, but is archived by the Internet Archive for viewing. I contacted him to maybe interview him, but I never heard back. Developed by Blitz Games and releasing in late 2003 when the show was well into its third season, Blitz Games, as a developer you might know for a number of releases from Frogger 2, Zapper, Creature from the Krusty Krab, and Pac-Man World 3, formerly named Interactive Studios, they're the Glover Company. You know them from Glover. From what I gather from how the credits are formatted, Blitz releases so many games so frequently, especially at this point in its history, by splitting up its employees into several teams, with people often moving around teams based on the needs of development. Zapper was Team Antics, Taz Wanted was Team Phoenix, the SpongeBob duology from Blitz was Team Rockfish, Breaking the Rules specifically is another Team Phoenix endeavor. Reviews of the time are fairly mixed, ranging from some exceptional praise, though most weren't all that impressed. Searching for reviews this time had me go to a good number of leads, both on old magazines and even a few websites that just do not exist anymore.
Odd Parents is the sort of game that you objectively know is as mediocre as all the rest, but has a certain inexplicable charm that makes the game impossible to hate. Odd Parents is the best Nicktoons game for Xbox. It's still a groaner, but the good kind of groaner.
It's hard to wash out the taste of Breaking the Rules, but hopefully time will tell and will be treated to a better follow-up if there ever is one. If you hate the show, you'll see that quality time with the local neighborhood raccoons will be more fun than this.
Graphic and camera are slightly below average, and the game is both short and easy, but the constantly changing gameplay, Cosmos goofball comments, and the game's irrelevant sense of humor, Spatula Woman, are worth experiencing anyhow. Eric Brancher, PSM Magazine.
My only diss goes to the control and camera, which are both kinda whack, and Timmy's all Fat Albert, yo.
What? I'm not screwing with you here. Please pause and read the whole thing. Why is it worded like this? I've gone through the rest of the magazine. The rest. He only does it for this game. Mark, no, why are you doing this? Okay, so I want to talk about the actual game now, and I think a good place to start is the art on the cover. It's nothing like impressive, but just look at Cosmo. This cover is a sign to things to come. We have two things we need to talk about right now. One, we need to confront how very beautiful this game looks. Two, we need to confront how very abysmal this game looks. The art direction in this game is utterly stellar. For this game's development, Blitz works in a direction that converts the 2D designs as directly into 3D as possible. Rather than making the characters full 3D, say like the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, they made a 3D mesh of the characters and had details painted on and changed depending on the angle of the camera. This is most prominent in Timmy himself. He's got 5 different mouth textures to account for angles from the sides and front, and his hair always stays parallel to the camera. The illusion holds extremely well for the main characters, and honestly it's one of the very best transitions from 2D to 3D I've ever seen, especially for this era of gaming. The world textures also have the same level of love to them. Everything feels so very accurate to the show and fits right in. This holds true for the music as well. Not stand out in audio listening, but it fits the show just as well as it does the game. Unfortunately, this level of care was only in this early stage, as every auxiliary component is cheaped out on. Let's move from what you'd notice first and go from there. You hit new game and the very first thing you notice is the audio quality is nigh abysmal.
Dad, I didn't know Timmy had different heads. just another day or two.
My first thought would be for compression, but not only is this an intense amount of compression not necessary, but it's true for every version of the game no matter the disc size. They've gone through the effort to get all of the original actors. Rob Paulsen is really pulling his weight here. But then have them all recording through a phone line. Next you'll notice the characters kind of just don't animate. This is true the entire game, which while makes the cutscenes fairly boring, what it affects most is the game sometimes likes to make jokes that fall pretty flat without action behind it. Early in the game, an alien is woken up by the group talking loudly, but you turn to the alien after the cutscene and dialogue so often implies action that gets no follow-up. It gives the jokes a weak or no punchline. So much telling and no showing. This gulf of quality is present through the entire experience. Blitz created a unique costume every level, and in the case of Mini Timmy and A Dog's Life, entirely new main character models that need new animations, and then 2D looks like this. It feels like they focused all of their energy into getting a good base going and then ran out of money or time and just had to slap the rest together. And I'm not blind to the fact that the premise of a Fairly Odd Parents video game is kind of terrifying. A kid who can wish for anything? Development of a game that truly takes advantage of such an idea would be hell, maybe only achieved in part by Scribblenauts, I think? There was never a Scribblenauts Fairly Odd Parents crossover. What a missed opportunity. So like in several episodes of the show, to really have a plot, you have to be able to at will remove wish from the primary verbs of your premise. The game does this by having Timmy ask Cosmo and Wanda to stall Vicky. They refuse to do this because they can't be seen by others, which I'm pretty sure they can stall Vicky without showing themselves. And in response, Timmy wishes he didn't have to follow those rules. Now rather than removing the rules as a factor, this just teleports the book to Timmy's doorway and
broke the rules so badly that the next person to touch them will steal the wish power of the very stupid enough to grant such a silly wish.
To which Vicky reaches the book before Timmy can, giving her the wishing powers of the book before wishing Timmy to sleep, and then in a dream they get brought to real fairy court, where the group is sentenced to 49.5 hours to recover the book. Cosmo and Wanda are given training wads, and so is the wishing power in the wands or the book? Anyways, these training wads are the game's method of limiting Timmy's ability to wish to when it's convenient. As we see in the tutorial dream level, in which it becomes obvious you cannot skip cutscenes, you can only skip one character line at a time. In levels, there are collectibles called wish stars, which despite being a newly introduced idea, the characters claim to have seen before. Most notably, Timmy seems familiar with them. When you collect 5, you get a single wish, in which you can activate by standing on these star-shaped areas. These wishes are intensely context-sensitive and restrictive, usually activating a simple ability for a limited section of the stage. Each stage has 15 stars and 3 wishes to go alongside them. I'd like to talk about the collectibles in general now. Levels in this game are incredibly linear, so there's minimal exploration and there's not much to collect. We have covered wish stars, but in every level there's also 4 Crimson Chin cards. Collecting these simply unlocks episode clips on the main menu. I feel most of these are pretty good picks, however 3 of them are sections from the opening scene of Abracatastrophe, which is a little repetitive. And that's it for tracked collectibles, of which only the cards are optional. There's crowns and 100 leads to an extra life, but that's the totality of it. So this game really comes down to how fun the linear platforming is. The game has 8 levels, not including the tutorial or final boss, and each one has a premise based partially on an episode of the show. Never directly on the plot of an episode, but always in reference of one. You access them by walking up to areas in Timmy's house. This is by all means a very wonderful hub world to have. Exploring a familiar place from the show is a must for a tie-in video game, and this works very, very well. Each level is treated like an episode, with a title card loading screen and is self-contained. Timmy provokes Vicky into accidentally making a wish, and Timmy has to clean up the consequences therein, while finding pages of the rules along the way. The pages you think would also be a collectible, but the only time you see them in-game is floating in wish panels. The game lets you tackle levels in any order of your preference, with more unlocking as you complete others. Upon first loading in, you have the choice of 3 levels, and upon completing 2 of them, you unlock a 4th, and once you finish the 3rd level, you unlock 3 more in the living room, and so on. Chinless Blunder is usually the one I tackle first, very obviously based on the episode Chin Up, and includes characters of the comic that really only have a highlight in that episode, like Country Boy and Spatula Woman. Vicky wishes that the Crimson Chin was useless and that Timmy was trapped in the comic book. This manifests as making the Chin that fat cosplayer from the episode, and all the Chin's powers got transferred to one of 3 villains you fight. Quite the boss-filled level. Now, we have to return to that trailer again. The music that plays in this trailer should be very familiar to you as the theme that plays when fighting Country Boy. It's the exact same track, but the trailer variant lacks the instrumentation that makes it a theme for Country Boy. This original version of the track is, as far as I'm aware, totally lost. Now, this isn't something that should matter, but this fun fact has been lodged in my brain for over a decade now, and I never ever can stop thinking about it anytime I interact with this game. Right, maybe I should bring up the actual gameplay of this level here. There's a central area where you collect 5 stars, and then the level funnels you towards fighting the bad guys in order. Country Boy has Timmy wish for a chincopter to chase after him with. This becomes a minigame where you have to cut off the balloon bombs so they'll fly away, and by hitting them a bar on the right advances. Dialogue implies the balloons themselves are the bombs, which makes contextual sense of what we're doing. However, the balloons are being weighed down by bombs. This is the strangest piece of unnecessary ludonarrative dissonance I have ever happened upon. Next up is Spatula Woman, who's kidnapped the mayor. Timmy wishes for a chinarang, which can stun the 3 enemies in this area, so the mayor is hanging above a mixing bowl, because woman. And to stop the mixing, you just have to press the 3 buttons throughout the stage as you see them. This highlights a lack of input the game expects from the player. Base Timmy can do only one thing, and that's jump. Buttons like this you just walk onto, and Timmy will do the slam adjacent move on his own. Not only does this feel wrong, but it creates a lack of any impact when doing actions like these. Anytime Timmy's outside of the designated wish zone, Timmy's moveset is basically nothing, and the base jumping and movement isn't taken good advantage of or feels that good to control. Timmy carries a lot of invisible weight. His jumps are short and stiff. You constantly feel like you're just hobbling over platforms rather than making a clean jump. After a fairly drawn-out boss fight with Spatula Woman, we make the rounds one last time to fight the Gilded Arches.
Who was the Gilded Arches?
Why, he's a comic book villain that only appears in the short-lived Crimson Chin internet shorts. If I may tangent here, I simply love auxiliary media such as this. It's this set of flash animations that used to be on Nick's website. With their limited animation and one single voice actor, you can tell they supplied basically no budget for this. It really goes down in the pantheon of Fairly Odd Parents media that goes unrecognized for not being explicitly part of the main show, much like the Oh Yeah cartoon shorts. They did all get released as special features on a DVD at least, much like those shorts. It's through watching this short that I got something I didn't know I needed to know, which is the Gilded Arches backstory. And I am a hazard to you by sharing that his legs are in fact not any sort of machinery, but rather his legs just did that?
Yes, a former child star whose teeth grew when he hit puberty, while the rest of his body stayed small and scrawny.
Anyways, his gimmick is he's walking across the rooftops, and to follow, Timmy wishes for a grappling hook. This really comes down to following him from rooftop to rooftop until you have a grappling minigame. After this, we're done, and you can get a quick word from the Crimson Chin. Now, he's not voiced by Jay Leno, but it's hard to complain too much when Darren Norris was the first voice the Crimson Chin ever got, for 2 lines in the Oh Yeah cartoon short Super Humor. Speaking of those Oh Yeah cartoon shorts, our next level is a badge too far. Now, while the Squirrely Scouts do appear as a setup for the plot of Odd Odd West, this level clearly takes far more inspiration from the Oh Yeah cartoon short Scout's Honor, with the appearance of the Cream Puffs and Vicky being their leader, this time wished into power. These Season 0 episodes are rather difficult to find these days. Most YouTube uploads have been taken down. This level is mostly compromised of stealth, and I have to be fully honest with you, it's hard to not get a thrill out of running behind all of the enemies.
We could use a distraction or a decoy.
An octopus! That would distract them!
I don't think so, Cosmo. What about a disguise?
Good idea, Timmy. We'll make a cream puff out of you yet.
The wishes are all lackluster here, but the final one is for a disguise, which in context of this level is what we call an incredible excuse to retread Samantha from the episode The Boy Who Would Be Queen. For anybody who may have out loud said, "Oh, this is the best game ever," I have more surprises for you yet. You might remember the first episode of the main series, Power Mad, and to not make a level based on the in-universe video game would be a massive missed opportunity. So of course, Splitz capitalized on this in Vicky Virus. Vicky wishes Timmy and all his friends to get stuck in the game, and from there the plot is pretty similar. I'd say it's one of the better levels overall. It captures the very Tron-like visuals the episode had. It gives Timmy an actual attack, like he's got a little Mega Buster, and the platforming is actually interesting for a little bit here. We even play as other characters for a bit, mostly AJ. The wishes though are some of the worst. This snowplow is incredibly tedious, and then it's followed up by Timmy wishing for a weapon that feels no different than the one he had. These are all the levels that are playable from the very start, and one start unlocking, first with Mini Timmy. Vicky wishes Timmy was Chibi Robo or whatever, and he falls down the drain of the bathtub. Based loosely on the similarly titled Tiny Timmy, taking a lot of design from it, he gets the suit from the episode, requiring a new set of stiff animations for the character model. This suit doesn't do anything special gameplay-wise really until the end when Timmy wishes it had an attack to defeat the boss of the level. Generally very boring, and I don't find the tightrope walking to be particularly enjoyable. Now we can finally go down to the living room where we can access 3 more stages, and this hub world becomes what I consider an adequate amount of fan service. Time Warped has Vicky wishing all her incorrect history homework was correct, and that Timmy was back in time to see it. This manifests in 3 different time periods you have to correct, all of the wishes revolving around fixing things that got changed. It's a lot of assets for one level, and I have to give it props, but the standout is easily the medieval England segment, which takes a lot of itself from the episode Nighty Night. Unfortunately, we don't get to see a buff Arthur, but it has one of the very few interestingly placed Crimson Chin cards requiring some actually out-of-the-way platforming. It's also the first of the 3 time periods. This level peaks early. The source of Crash Landing isn't very hard to track down at all. I think its beginning portion is very fun, working your way through the streets of Dimsdale, breaking down walls to make your way through the scraps of buildings, but eventually we reach a Yugo-Potamian ship. The platforming here gets interesting. We even get a section with a jetpack that's a little fun, but once we reach the end, the beats become one for one the end of Spaced Out. Every trial is the same here, except we have another wild example of ludonarrative dissonance. As you know, every trial was harmless for Timmy, and that's how it's framed in this game, but that wouldn't make for very good gameplay. So when they talk about the chocolate bar, instead of that, you get a platforming challenge with the enemies and a chocolatey death below. Bad Luck 101 takes place at school on a weekend. Vicky wishes Timmy had all of her bad luck, which causes anti-fairies to get curious and cause issues. It's a pretty fun episode, but the bad luck really just comes down to a lot of stopping and starting. I'd say this has some of the more interesting wishes. The main goal is to use a magnet to capture all 3 of the anti-fairies. Crocker appears a lot in this level, which is at least somewhat a joy to see. Now, some time ago, finally the kitchen opened. There's this small door that leads onto the stairs that has no clear purpose. It never opens or anything. I'm not sure what it's about. A Dog's Life has Vicky accidentally wish Timmy into a dog. We then have to run from Tootie, who has fallen in love with this Timmy-coated dog. This being the excuse for why Timmy can't just wish himself back to being a human at any point of this stage.
Don't slip in the puddle, puppy!
This level takes place in a large mall, a level aesthetic I like quite a bit. The music is even a little bit a cappella, though it has an example of possibly the worst wish in the game. Most of the wishes in this game are painfully just for an arbitrary roadblock, but Timmy has to wish to see in the dark just for the level to play entirely normally from there. It's just so obviously filler.
Can't be sorry, you adorable little pup. Yes, you are.
And the end stretch of the level includes watching this digging and servicing cutscene over and over and over, and if you dare get a game over here. I've hardly talked about the life system. It's very integrated into the general health system. You have 3 hit points, and when you run out, you consume a life and have another 3. This lack of feedback means you might get lazy and run right out. It's not a big deal. Returning to last save isn't a big punishment, assuming you have been saving often. These blue doors appear throughout the stages, and just walking through them saves the game. If you approach it too fast, Timmy will bonk before the menu pops up. A little funny. Regardless, I had in fact gotten a very sudden game over right at the end of this level and had to do this one very specific jump over again. Let me tell you about this jump. You can just barely make it. It's the only instance in this game of requiring the player to run off the edge of a platform just to get a little stretch out of a jump. I didn't think this jump was possible. I had been stuck in this room for a little bit and had to double check with an online playthrough. After getting through this whole section, there's a side vent that takes you directly back here, like, no!
There you go, puppy.
At the end of the stage, Timmy managed to get Tootie to change her opinion and can wish himself back to being a person, which makes me think about something that's been happening occasionally throughout this game. Timmy makes little small wishes here and there without the wish stars. Now, I'm sure it could be explained as like just spare, extra, running on fumes style of power, but at the end of this stage, Timmy wishes he was human again, and that works, and I just wonder why, say, turning Timmy into a girl took an entire 5 wish stars, but undogging Timmy doesn't. Is this to say becoming a woman requires effort while becoming a man doesn't? I promise I don't think that.
Cosmo D. Kirk.
So this is it. That's every level in the game. We've now filled our community service and a new door appears to take us back to Fairy World. With a name like the Ultimate Challenge though, I would hazard a guess the courts aren't done with us yet. Why indeed, we've collected all the pages, that doesn't mean we have the book. Why were the pages lost anyways? Vicky picked up the entire book. Did she like tear it apart for fun? That would be in character, but that's never even implied. They're not even real collectibles, so really there's any number of excuses, even just as simple as undoing what Vicky wishes for while waiting for court proceedings. Anyways, to get the actual book back, we just have to make Vicky say, I wish I never took the book from Timmy. And for extra drama, Vicky has been turned into a dragon. This is a fairly short and easy boss fight. True to its premise, rather than doing any damage, you just get Vicky to say those words. Across the area are several panels that are fractions of that sentence. There are a few ones in there that aren't needed. It feels a bit uncouth to use buttons to force somebody to say words, but I guess it's at least fair. But Timmy can't push these buttons. In fact, Vicky goes through an attack cycle of breathing fire then flying over to crush Timmy. You can very easily trick her into pressing one of these buttons instead. So this boss fight really just comes down to waiting for Vicky's attack cycle to get to the end, hitting one of the buttons, rinse and repeat until you finish the sentence. Give or take however long it takes you to figure out which image means what, they aren't really the best, and you have to know that several words can be part of one image. Don't get too distracted by I when looking for the first button when wish includes the entire start of I wish. So you do the repetitive boss fight and get Vicky to unwish taking the book. The battle is over, everything's back to normal, and everybody goes home, depending on the person missing a memory or two. Though this just puts the rules back in the doorway where Vicky almost picks it up again. Thankfully, rather than making me relive this budgeting accident of a title, Timmy's parents come home just in time, to which Vicky just decides to forget about the book. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen the final product I've written, but I feel so jumbled. Like, that's it. That's the whole game, even stretched a little bit. But this feels like such an anticlimax of a writing venture, just like how this game peters out never having a particular stake to feel complete in. So to take a page from all these gaming magazines, I forced myself to read the bottom line. This game tastes like bread. It's a treat for Fairly OddParents fans for sure, but it's kind of like getting served undercooked meat. Like, it looks really nice on the surface, and you bite in, and it's kind of gooey. To be fully frank with you, as a viewing audience, I already know the sequel is a magnitude of improvement upon this game. I think this is where most of my credence of this game comes from, not as a game itself, but rather a foundation for something I consider to be pretty good. This is a knowledge bullet I originally wanted to dodge while writing this video script, but I've realized that by doing so, I'm robbing this game of any conclusion to its exterior narrative born from my review of it. So I cannot give this video an ending. I won't! Goodbye! Everybody here pronounced irreverent as irrelevant. What's up with that?